What is a situation where common sense will actually make things worse? Writing an essay. Don't write your introduction first. Write it last so it says exactly what is in the essay. Chances are, the paper you're writing will evolve slightly so it's easier to do the intro in retrospect. Or, write an introduction that helps guide what you want to write about. Your plan. Articulating your frame of analysis. Then be sure to come back and rewrite it. Your point stands though. The actual introduction should be written after everything else. I will write 2 introduction. The first one when I start, then another one after I am done. Trying to swim back to shore if you're caught in a riptide. You absolutely won't make any progress. And you'll just exhaust yourself. Swim parallel to the shore for a while. Until you're out of the current. And then back to shore. A lot of antiquated common sense in business management that somehow still survives to this day. In particular, the belief that working more hours means more productivity. That time and output exist on a linear scale. Human beings are like batteries. We wake up every morning with a particular reserve of FS. We give some FS to our hygiene, some FS to our outfit, some FS for breakfast, and then waste a lot of FS driving to work. Then we give whatever FS we have left until we're out of FS to give. Sorry boss. My fuckometer's drained. You're not going to get 3 hours worth of FS by simply asking for it. My FS runneth empty. So when everyone's making work like they don't give AFK. That's not their fault. That's the fault of the management that can't gauge our FG output. Then we still have to drive the FK home, make FG dinner, and try to FG unwind, putting us in AFG deficiency. So we go right back onto our FG rechargers and get 3 less hours of FG time to sow more FS for the next day, resulting in a depleting FG cycle with the preceding days diminishing progressively to FK all. Edit. Thanks, you straight jacket racket, for finding the song. I'm not gonna pretend I'm some original smarmy poet and that I came up with the concept on my own. That song planted a seed a long time ago. I couldn't remember where I got it. And I'm just now being reminded that it has sprouted in my brain into what I wrote above. The electrical output of a battery decreases as its reservoir of chemical energy is drained. Below a certain amount it will no longer power what it's intended to, even with some energy left in it. This isn't quite linear, either, which makes your comparison more apartment. We don't give FS at work until we have no FS left. We give FS at work until they fall below a threshold. Then we give no more FS to work, but rather save them for the things more toward the base of our hierarchy of needs. Common sense sales training is to teach the sales force how general-purpose high-pressure sales techniques that can leave the customer literally unable to decline the sale under the social pressure being applied. But if you have a quality product, teaching salespeople how to accurately identify customer needs and what the product lines are, their performance will far exceed that of those who have the traditional high-pressure sales training. My FS runneth empty. Such a beautiful turn of phrase. When you're trying to navigate office politics, leave common sense at the door. It's all illogical from here, friends. When playing the impossible quiz, a lot of times the obvious answer is never right and you have to think about the strange pun. Putting hot water on a frostbite to warm up. What do you do instead and why? Somebody feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But I think you gently warm it up. i.e. exhaling warm air onto the frost-bitten spot and holding it close to your body. Holding it in the relative area of a fire but not very close. Or slowly putting them in warm water. I forget the reason why you gently warm it. Unfortunately, it's probably about the universal rules of living organisms. Gradual change is safer than an abrupt one. When you choose to try and solve her problem instead of letting her vent about it to you, don't fall on that grenade man. Working for the government. A grease fire on the stove. Common sense says that fire plus water equals no fire. But that's not quite the case. Grease plus fire plus water equals second-degree burns on my arms and some very disappointed parents. You got lucky. Burn the rest of the house down so the fire has nowhere else to spread. If you hit oil, ice, don't accelerate or brake. Most people panic and brake, which makes thing 10x worse. In an automatic, don't brake or accelerate. Just steer into the skid and wait for force to run out. In a manual, try to force down gears to slow down and steer into the skid. I live somewhere that snows, and the first snowstorm I will go to an empty parking lot to slide, spin, and drift. Drifting is mostly for fun. I would rather make mistakes there than on a crowded road. Also, when it snows, I will be attentive to what the other cars are doing. Paying attention has saved me from a couple of rear endings at stoplights. If you downshift a manual, that would cause the back wheels, assuming RWD, to lock up or skid more. I'd think that pushing the clutch in and coasting in neutral would be best. Along the same lines as coasting in an auto. Arguing with a narcissist. Moving to try get out of quicksand. What should you do? Not disagreeing with what you said. Lay back to distribute your weight. Slowly move your legs until they're free enough to make small kicking motions to move you toward the side. I know nothing about quicksand. But I did watch Dora the Explorer, so? Do nothing. Just accept the sand as your new home. Dealing with an irrational person. Common sense says, explain yourself politely. It will open a pleasant discourse. Quote, nope. Doesn't work. It's like playing chess with a pigeon. They're going to st all over the board and not care what moves you're making. Moving someone in a major car accident. It's tempting to help a passenger out of the car and away from the scene. Unless there's a clear reason to do so. You should leave them in the car and wait for first responders. If there's a spinal injury, e.g., a fracture, moving them without a C-spine collar, a stiff collar that holds the neck straight, can result in a spinal cord injury, e.g., quadriplegia for life. Thank you. The dumbest thing that humans do is try to stand each other up after being seriously injured. Look, he's fine, we stood him up. Common sense implies general knowledge or reliance on gut feeling. Human brains are horrible at gauging odds over time. Yeah, we can do the math on paper. But in the moment we suck. So, that being said, anything that isn't a fight or flight response will quite possibly lead you astray. Throwing water on a grease fire. On a similar note, putting ice-cold water on a oil burn. What? Why not? Any burn should be treated with running cool water to dissipate heat. Cold water or ice can cause more damage, as burned skin doesn't regulate temperature well, and could cause damage by overcooling. An argument against an idiot. You cannot reason a person out of a position they did not reason into. Quote, plus they'll drag you down to their level and beat you with experience. It was your fault is the famous starting sentence of an idiot, since most of them can't take the blame for something. If someone has hypothermia, don't throw them in a hot water bath. You need to slowly bring them back to regular temperatures. Dating most of the time, male sign. If for whatever reason you found yourself stranded in the desert and you had some water with you, common sense might lead you to believe you should ration out the water to try and make it last longer. This is the exact opposite of what you should do. Whenever you're thirsty, drink until you're at least quenched. Being thirsty is the first sign of dehydration, and you will need to be hydrated for the best odds of survival. Keeping hydrated will help your body cool off, and if you get too dehydrated, you will become weaker and eventually delirious, which is the last thing you want. I've heard of people being found dead in the desert with plenty of water still on them. And don't eat if you don't have water. Car accidents. People tend to tense up their muscles in anticipation of impact. It's safer to go limp and let the safety devices do their job. Anything involving exponentials. I tried and failed to explain the concept of exponential growth to a coworker for nearly 3 hours. The guy's a total weep and latched onto me once he found out I speak Japanese. He started telling me about his katana that had the steel folded over 250,000 times. Single quote. Yeah, he's really one of those. I told him it didn't. That it may have 250,000 layers. Doubtful. But there's no way it had been actually folded that many times. And that to get 250,000 layers, you only need to fold the steel about 17 times. You know. First fold you get 2 layers. Then 4, 8, 16, 32. If you double every time. He couldn't get it. Literally could not wrap his head around it. There was no possible way you can get to 250,000 by doubling less than 20 times. Even when I literally counted it out for him, he just looked at me blankly for a few moments. Then shook his head and said, "No. That can't be right." Quote. Also, what's funny is that weebs think folded steel is a good thing, but folded steel is low-quality steel. They folded their blades to increase the strength and remove impurities because the steel available in feudal Japan was extremely impure. European swords did not need to be folded because they had access to better steel. Not because they were inferior swordsmiths. FN thank you. Give me a short sword made like the late Vikings did over a shitty FG katana any day. Apparently in investing in stocks. For the past 27 years. I've followed the market closely and my boss has talked to me a lot about that. He learned to bet against me. And has made tens of millions. For example, if any company makes a great product like Sun or Red Hat, he short sold them since I recommended them. I keep seeing Microsoft produce insecure garbage that they never fix. So he bought Microsoft stock on margin and made enough to buy a new house on Lake Washington. Basically, if a company makes too good of a product, then they're investing too much in the product versus marketing. Companies selling sizzle rather than steak are the ones that seem to always be successful. It's depressing to know that you can make money by always betting against yourself. It's not about the product, it's about the earnings. You're thinking, wow, this company has a great product. It's sure to be successful, and think it would be good to buy shares in that company. Which is fine. There's nothing wrong with buying shares in a company that you like. But your boss knows that there are a lot of people thinking exactly like you and investing in the same stock. Then the company releases its quarterly financials and investors see that the stock price is way higher than it should be. So they sell. And the price tanks. Because the investors who make money on the stock market aren't looking for which company has a great product. They are looking for which company can make a lot of money selling its product. Relevant XKCD. Hey. Conversely, I've always done well by betting against whatever makes me happy. Tesla makes me happy. Solar makes me happy. Marijuana stocks make me happy. All of the stocks for products that promise a better world make me happy. The problem is, they make lots of people happy. By the time a stodgy 30-something from flyover country, knows about something, lots of people know about it. Shares are already going to be inflated by all of the other stodgy people who read about how good it is. On the other hand, we're going to keep needing defense contractors. We're going to keep needing gas and oil. We're going to keep needing Microsoft and Cisco and herbicides and pharmaceuticals. I try to buy those up whenever they're down, knowing full and well that as much I might like for some of those things to be on their final days, they probably aren't. And, so far, that approach has served me well. I never have the BS to invest huge money. But my returns almost always beat the average. Returning fire with nukes after having a nuke launched at you. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos.